What's going on, beautiful people of YouTube? This is Ring Mean, and welcome to another episode of Unforgettable Moments in Gaming. That series where I talk about those crazy moments in gaming that have just stuck with me. Whether they're good or bad, it doesn't matter. The series could be 3 minutes, it could be 30 minutes. This episode, we're going to talk about when I got my first Game Boy Advance SP, and you're going to see how it actually became an unforgettable moment in gaming in my life. So sit back, relax, enjoy this episode. Alright, so a little bit of backstory. 2001, the Game Boy Advance comes out. That's this unit right here. This thing is truly awesome upon release. I remember playing this thing at like a Toys R Us kiosk for the first time. I remember grabbing it and just immediately thinking like, son of a bitch, that feels pretty good in my hands. Not to mention the graphics of whatever the hell I was playing at the time were absolutely incredible. I didn't get this thing at launch. I ended up getting it like a year later. My money was usually tied up in other things. But I remember getting this thing and just having an absolute blast with it. To actually go from Game Boy Color to Game Boy Advance games, it was a huge step. I mean, you were actually getting like 3D games, and it was really cool. This thing had some limitations, though. There was no backlit screen. That was terrible. You had to use this dumbass little worm light, and it didn't work that well. I mean, the Game Boy, the original Game Boy Color, they all had to use these little worm lights. They were not good. This thing had the same fate. I remember one thing that was cool is you could use this thing with like playing like The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. Little Tingle's ass would come out and you could use this thing with it. That was cool. Then it was like 2003. They were like, we got a new Game Boy coming out. It's not just the Game Boy Advance. It's the Game Boy Advance SP. And I was like, I didn't know what the hell that was. Apparently SP stands for special. I'm sure a lot of you out there don't know that. I didn't know that. So I thought that was cool as shit, but the biggest thing they were talking about is it was backlit, and I was like, are you kidding me? They finally caught up with the Sega Game Gear's ass years after the fact. So that was cool. I was already on board with that. And then I saw pictures of this thing, and it was like foldable. I was like, what the hell is that? That's crazy. Nintendo has a thing with foldable things. You know, from the Game & Watch to the Game Boy Advance SP, which is this one, to the DS, to whatever the hell they got coming out. Who knows? I was hooked. I was on board with this thing. I can't remember how much the MSRP was, how much the thing was initially when it came out. Maybe like $100, $130. I was on a stoner budget at the time. You know, my money went into like Funyuns, weed, rent, and whatever else I could save up, which would be for this. So, money's going towards that. And then, I remember when this thing came out, it came out in like summer or something of 2003. I couldn't get it on release. I didn't have money saved up. I didn't know about it in that time. So winter rolls around, you know, and they usually have crazy promotions going on. And I want to say maybe there was like a $20 promotion off of the actual box unit. So I was like, oh, fuck, that's the time to go get this thing. So it's definitely going to be the route that I go. A little bit previous before that, maybe like a year before that, my only mode of transportation was this fly-ass moped. Now, I get this moped, I paid like $100 to $150 from this shady character. I don't remember the full story of how I got it. The thing ran, but God, it was a crappy moped, man. But I loved it. It got me to point A to B and to C to pick up some weed. Now, obviously, man, I'm a lot more mature now. You'll hear these dumbass stoner stories. Those are in the past. I ain't got nothing against it, but fuck, I just ain't got time for it no more. But anyways, I got this moped, and I had a blast with this thing, man. I drove this little bastard everywhere. I had this little sticker on the side of it that said, "Live to Ride," and it had a picture of like Homer Simpson on a hog, man. I didn't give a damn. If you can imagine the helmet that was on the little alien from the Flintstones, the Green Gazoo, the Great Green Gazoo, or whatever the hell he was, that's what my helmet looked like. I don't know where the hell I got that helmet, but the thing was bulbous, man. People don't respect people on mopeds and bikes. That's one thing that I've learned. When you're driving down the road, people will chuck shit at you. Little girls will flip you off, man. There is all sorts of havoc that can be had for anyone who doesn't go well beyond the speed limit. So that is one thing that I learned from my experience. But anyways, I saved up enough money to get the Game Boy Advance SP. I was super excited. I had a little bit extra. I was going to get me a game. I was ready to go. I'm sure I got extremely red-eyed before I went. And I remember it was cold as shit. But I only had like 6-7 miles to go. It wasn't that terrible. So I'm driving down, and it's God almighty, I want to say the roads were a little bit slick from like a snow a week before. But I didn't give a damn. I had one thing in my mind, and that was the Game Boy. So I get to the store. I made it there. You know, I'm ducking and dodging. People are going crazy, and I get to Kmart. Actually, it wasn't Toys R Us. It wasn't Walmart. It was Kmart, and that thing's probably soon to be extinct because Kmart's, I think, suffering the same fate as Radio Shack. But I go in there, and it's cool, you know, to see all the games. When you are red-eyed in a place like this, everything is nice, bright, and beautiful. You got Mario, you got Link, and all that. Everything just looks great. And that's the type of environment that I love. And I remember buying it. It all goes off without a hitch. And I scooter my way back home, man. And I remember I was so excited. I had to hold the thing in my hand because I don't think I had a way of mounting anything, or I didn't have like a little ET basket for the moped. So I like held the Game Boy Advance. It came in a small box. It wasn't big at all. And I'm like holding on to it, you know, scootering back, you know. I'm ready to break into this thing and just really see what this thing's all about, man. It had a built-in battery too, so that's cool. No more AA, AAA shits, you know. I got the power in my hands. And I get home, super excited, open up the box. I'm like, hell yeah. I never even bought a new game for the damn thing. I remember that. That was an awesome event, though, when I went and picked that bastard up. I did eventually. I don't think that day. I think maybe the next day I went and picked up, like, Tony Hawk or something. That was actually a really cool game for the Game Boy Advance. But I remember that to this day. That little drive on that damn shitty little moped to get the Game Boy Advance SP for when it came out, that'll stick with me forever, because I made a lot of dumbass decisions back in that time, and I feel that was one of them. But that's it. That's my unforgettable moment in gaming that I have added to the playlist. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. For whatever reason, some of y'all watch this. Hell, I don't know. I think it's fun to talk about the crazy stuff that's happened in my life. If you have any thing you want to add, any unforgettable moment that you feel you need to share, let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, people.